Hello, and welcome to my informative speech for Intro to Speech class. My name is Seth Leonard, and I am a sophomore at Collin County Community College. Imagine waking up to the sound of helicopters overhead with no warning and within hours of being told to pack up your things and leave your home forever. That was the reality for people of Pripyat, Ukraine, on the morning of April 26, 1986. They had no idea that just a few miles away, one of the world's worst nuclear disasters had just occurred. Nuclear power has often been considered one of the most efficient and clean sources of energy. But when something goes wrong, the results can be catastrophic. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster is a powerful example of this. I spent time researching academic sources, survivor accounts, and historical reports to bring you a clear, factual look at what actually happened. Today I will inform you mostly about what caused the explosion of Chernobyl, the immediate effects on the people and the environment, and the long-term consequences we are still facing today. My main point: what caused the explosion? The Chernobyl disaster began on a late night safety test on Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The goal was to simulate a power outage to ensure the reactor could safely shut down. However, things went very wrong due to a combination of operator errors and a flawed reactor design. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, 2006, several key protocols were deliberately ignored or misunderstood by the operators who lacked proper training. The RBMK reactor itself had a serious design flaws that made it unstable at low power levels. At 1:23 a.m., a massive explosion occurred, blowing the 1,000-ton reactor lid into the air and releasing a huge amount of radioactive material in the atmosphere. Unlike other nuclear incidents, the explosion was not contained. My main point, number 2, the immediate aftermath. The nearby town of Pripyat, home to about 50,000 people, was not evacuated until almost 36 hours later. By then, the people had already been exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. Firefighters were first on the scene, having no idea that they were fighting a radioactive fire. Most of them wore no protective gear and died shortly after due to an acute radiation syndrome. In her book, Voices from Chernobyl, Sevlentia Alvechkich, in 2005, shares a personal account from the survivors. One of the firefighters' wives described his skin as how it began to peel away and his organs shut down within days. She says, "He was no longer my husband, he was a radioactive object." By official estimates, only 31 people died immediately, but experts agree that the true number of deaths is much, much higher. My main point number 3, long-term consequences. The Chernobyl explosion zone, about 1,000 square miles, remains uninhabitable to this day. Radiation levels are still dangerously high in some areas, and wildlife has been affected in strange ways, with some animals showing mutations. The United Nations Scientific Committee of the Effects of Atomic Radiation, or UNSCEAR, 2011, reports that over 6,000 cases of thyroid cancer were detected in people who were children at the time of the incident, largely due to exposure of radioactive iodine. The disaster was also forced the people of the world to reconsider nuclear energy safety. Many countries reviewed their reactor designs and safety protocols. Germany, for example, began phasing out its nuclear plants entirely. And while the site is now a dark tourist destination, complete with guided tours of Pripyat, Chernobyl is still a sobering example of how quickly things can spiral out of control. Conclusion. To wrap up, Chernobyl was caused by a flawed reactor and human error during a safety test. Its immediate aftermath devastated the lives of thousands, many of whom never returned home. Its long-term effects still linger in the environment, in our health, and in our approach to nuclear power. So the next time you hear someone talk about clean energy or nuclear efficiency, remember Pripyat, the ghost town of frozen time, and the costs that came with a single mistake. Thank you. My oral citations are according to the International Atomic Energy of 2006, in the book Voices from Chernobyl by Slaventiev Alvechkic of 2005, and from the United Nations Scientific Committee of the Effects of Atomic Radiation of 2011. Thank you for listening to this speech.